Oh, he doesn't seem to be so sure.
It's working. The red light means it's on.
Yeah, the red light's on.
The tape.
This thing's working?
I turned on the tape. I think I turned it on.
Right, so we were on Tov Yud Gimel. We were in the middle of the beer on the Kashas at the beginning of the Maimah. And we saw that the Shaila was, why do we say that Davki in the Shershi made Tshuva, but that's the Gila of Dirshu Hashem Behimotza'oi. And we say that Davki then the is nimtza gam leyochid k'moy letzibur, ve'ilu in the pasuk Dirshu Hashem behimotzai. I'm sorry, in ilu in the pasuk b'chol koreinu mi Hashem alakeinu b'chol koreinu elov. We said that that's only letzibur, but not leyochid. That's b'zman harogio, not in the Sasha Meichua. You need to have another pasuk Dirshu Hashem behimotzai, and it's not enough. You can't learn the Sasha Meichua from Bechol Koreinu Elo. So the shadow was it. Bechol Koreinu Elo seems to be the Yeshua Mailam Ishtausheles. There was enough kimina if it's mitzad that drosha or mitzad another drosha. If it's already Lamalam Ishtausheles, it should be nimtza gamle leyochid, meaning that the Urshel Gamri Lamala Mishtal, so there shouldn't be any enough Kamina being Tzibur Leyochim. So the answer was that the Bechol Koreinu Elov is Einachanama Elov Lo Valela Midoisov. He's talking about the Gilui, about the Hamshocha of Atzmas Ein Seif, and the ability, as it were, to make Kesher or to reach the Inyan for Ein Seif. How he is Lamaila Mio Ilames. However, the Rebbe said that it's still got a certain shaykhs to the union of Ishtausheles. Since we say that we're shoylel the union from, we say a love aloyla midoisov, is a similar. There is some kasachadaitach, however, there of the union of midoisov, and we say a love aloyla midoisov. There's a similar that he's not completely in that level. Niram is in that posse completely legamri lamaila me shaykhs to the Chitania so Ayin safe, which is shaykh la'ilam. And therefore we say that even though the ability to reach the Eibush there is unlimited, but it can only be done through a tzibur, only through a koyach elin, where the yochid himself remains unable there, just like he would be the Elagabi the Aramubish Bishtausel. However, in the Zman of Rosh Hashanah, Research Yemei Tshuva, then is Meir the Pinimis V'Atzmius of the Ein Seif. What that we saw was the in the Maimah, we saw that was the union of Atik. That's the Tafteinish of a Maitzel, the union of Gila Ein Seif Mamish. And we saw that that's Mizgala precisely in the union of Moicha or Chochmas Timoa, or that's union of Tikboiris, the Gvuris, the Atik, Yoimin, Amuluboshim, B'Moichas Timoa. And we saw that the Gevura there is the union from Tikboiris or Atzmias, the what you might call the overcoming power of the Atzmas to be Meir Davki into that Madrega. And that's the union of Chosaf Hashem as Roya Kodashoi, the Dave, so literally drew up the sleeve, how do you call it? He made bare his arm, the union from Roya Kodashoi, the union from Shlil Salavushim, Lamaila Mi Lavushim altogether. And we saw that that was the Inyan Amavur and Kama Makemas Kiruv Hamoya El Hanitzotz, meaning that the Inyan of the Moya Be'eshu Mitalatz Musa Mamish is Bekiruv to the Nitzotz Haproti. And therefore we saw there's the ability that even the Yochid can reach and be poil his inyonim in Atzmas Ein Seif. And therefore we saw Davki mitzad that, because there was a gili of Atzmas, but even shall Tikbiris or Atzmas, Gvuris, in Atik, amen? And therefore we saw that that was the Zman HaTshuva, לתקן כל הפגמים והחסרונס שחיסר באיזה מצווה או קיצר בעבודת הוויה. Very interesting lesson that he might have missed in some mitzvah, or he might have been makatzer in avodas havaya. In other words, he sort of made a few quickies here and there. He sort of got away with it rather than doing the shleimus ha'inyan. So therefore, even for that, if you've been makatzer b'avodas havaya, then for that you also need a inyan from tikkun ha'pagamim v'mili ha'chisreimus. That's also a inyan from chisaron. Not only missing on a mitzvah, but for klolos ha'aveda, where you could have been mamale inyan aveda, or you could have been mashlim an inyan in aveda, and you made it kilo bekitzer, is then even that needs a tikkun and a mili ha'chisreimus. The big day malis ha'pegomim v'ha'chisreimus is one of pegam. The Alter Rebbe brings it in Geras HaTshuva. That is from Lashon pegim sakin. In other words, it's a niche in the shleimus of the blade. In the same way, the shleimus amshocha that he could have been mamshich has in itself literally holes or lackings. Therefore, niches, as you might say. Therefore, we need a milah of all tzodik liyos amshocha b'chinas atzmus ein say, and that's the inyan from pnimius ati b'chinas atzmus hatainu. Commission is buali or perikuf tzadik gimel. But over there we saw an amazing inyan, but maybe you remember it, I'll upon him with some sort of clarity or lack of saying, but anyway, we did have it over there, that the mitzad inyan from the pnimis hatainu, which comes mitzad tshuva, or is the outcome of tshuva, or the pa'ul of tshuva, is dafki mitzad the mile of neshamas Yisrael, dafki mitzad the kiruv of neshamas Yisrael liatzmusa yisborach, and kila he's mesanig in the etzem mitzias of Yidden, and even lamaila mitoyro mitzvah. So therefore that gives the ability that what a Yid returns, as it were, to Elokus mamish la'avinu shebashamayim, but apshitas he comes back literally to Aviv shebashamayim. Then that's ma'ira the pnimius ve'atzmis ha'oinig, which is in the Neshamas Yisrael. Davke even l'mayla me'inyan from Torah or mitzvahs. Validei what is ma'ira that inyan ha'oinig. And mamila is also nimshach the inyan from a new rotzen. And mamila is nimshach ha'rotzen, which is metakein or the avinyanim that were lacking in the rotzen of Torah or mitzvahs. And I feel in the inyan from avidos is borah. Even though Tainug and Rotzen are not the same thing, and on the contrary, Tainug with the Pnimius and Rotzen is the inyan from Amshocha, but derek Gilui HaChitzoni Mia Atzmas. However, said the Rabbi, if you reach the Amitis inyan HaOineg, then automatically there's Kilo inyan from Amshocha Sarotzen Mi Chadash. But since you come back into the Mokeh of all the Amshochas, that's Pnimius Tainug. And dort is there, as it were, nachas ruach lofanai, mitzad the amitis inyan of Tainug, and there's also a new gilui in ha'rotzen. But even though rotzen is a different inyan than Tainug, but mitzad the shleimus at the kaviyach, the nachas ruach, in the shamis as well, then there goes automatically a new inyan in the inyan from rotzen. Afilo mitzad the inyan from rotzen, afilo mitzad Torah mitzvahs, is megala a new rotzen in the aveda of Yidden, even though it may not have been betachas ha'shleimus. That causes the inyan from how do you call it, mila kol ha'chisreimus v'ha'pagomim. That was what was mavur over there in that wondrous piece in Perik Kuf Tzadik Gimel. Zehu gam kein inyan tkiya shoifar. שהוא עניין הצ'ייקה פנימיס מואים כדליבה בחינת צוח ליבום, but that's the union of shofar. What inyan is not stama tzaiken or a tzaiken from etzem a pnimis alev, but that's the union from tzoach libom. So on the beer, but it is considered that there's a union from kola the stama, and then there's a kola pnimoa the loy stama, and then there's a kola pnimoa the loy stama klau. So Kola Pnima or Kola Dishtama, that's a call which can come into call, it comes in a Masudatika, I feel in Oisias. Kola Pnima, the lawyer Stama is in from Lamaila Oisias, of Alhoponim, it comes in the form of Tsaikas HaKol. At least he can make himself heard through the of a Kol Poshut, the Ka'etab is a Mitzad the Makabah. Over the immediate Kol Poshet of Tkiya Shofar is another Inyan altogether, but that's called a Pnimor, the Lo Yishtama Klal, and therefore it's called the Etzem HaLev itself is Tzuek. Not that he gives off a Tzaika Mir Lev, nor the Lev Atzmai, Tzuek. And therefore, Kaviyochu, there's no Inyan from Kol, and no Inyan from Oisius and Kalvachima, but there's not even any Inyan of Kol, but Oisius or Inyan. Therefore, the Inyan from the Shofar is not really a human Kol. It's a Kol Behemoth. You do it. It's a Kol Bialma, because it represents the Tzaichas Alev, which is Lamayla Mikol Gamke. And that's what he means. The Inyan from Pnimis V'Atzmiyas Umke de Liebe, the Tzaicha of the Lev Biatzmi. The Shofar, who Kol Hamatil Charoda. We see it's not Stama Kol. It's not a how would you call a normal coal? It's that we just pointed out it's not a human coal. And there's another aspect to it, that the coal of the shofar causes pachad. Yeah? When you hear the coal of shofar, it's matil charoda. Dainu b'chinas gevura is the atik. In other words, that fear and shrek which comes from shmiyas hakol, that's indicatory of inyan ha-gevurais. That's a pnimis of atik, like we saw the inyan from tikboiras ha'atzmas sheba atik. Therefore, the kol ha-shofar not only mitzat makabel is the inyan of l'mayla mikol inyan kol. That's inyan from tzaichas halev mamish. So it is milmayla. That's the inyan from the atzmias mamish pnimis v'atzmias hataynu. V'am azman ha'masugel hazehu b'seres yemei teshuva the oz mei pnimis pnimias atik. The most fitting time for these inyanim, for the inyan from Tshuva, which began with the inyan from Tkiya Shofar, and to bring it out into Golu and into more, what you might call detail, that's in the Seres Yemei Tshuva. What then the Hamshocha began by Tkiya Shofar is Meir B'toikev during those days. Yeah, the B'chinas Madregas Lo Yesh Chiluchi Madregas Klal. In that level, Gevura is the Atik, which is Pnimis Atik, Pnimis Hamaitzel Mamish. There's no Chiluchi Madregas. V'hari hu motzui Lakur Dershov Gamli Yochid. And the Abish is literally there, and he's ready, and he's available, as you might say, to anybody who looks for him, even if he's a Yochid, even if he doesn't have what you might call the organized koyach behind him of a tzibur, but he's just a yochid kamoisha, who is in that particular zman. That's the mila of that zman, even over b'chol koreinu eilo. B'chol koreinu eilo is omnam l'mayla miyishtausos, but that's shai kol hashon. This is the zman tavki of Seres Yemei Tshuva pnimius gevuris da'ati. So therefore, that's the terrace why it is Davki as we say that he's Motzula Yochid. Obi Yerushalmi, so we brought down earlier at the beginning of the Maimah, we brought down the Lashon of the Yerushalmi, that where's he Matsui b'bate Knesses or bate Midrashes. We saw that the Yerushalmi makes it even for Mokim Davke, a place Kaviyachol, that if you're there and you derish him, from there then you'll find him. And for Ilu we saw in the Sifri and the Medrash we bought, the Iker was the Etchem Madrega in the Mashpia that made it possible for it to reach him, because Madrega, I feel the Madrega is a Yochid Mitzad Atzmi. For Ilu in the Yerushalmi we saw there was an emphasis on the Indian Mokim Davki. It has to be Davki for Beit HaKnesses. And not only Beis HaKnesses, nor Beis HaMedrash. In other words, the fact that he mentions not only Knessias, nor also But in Medrash is a siman that there's a hadgosha in that move on the Inyan van Limada, on the Inyan van Limada Torah Davke. It's well known that brought down in the Gemara there's a Inyan to learn where you daven. The way you daven, you should immediately be mamshir. In a Inyan van Limud, so we could suggest that the movement in that Yerushalmi, the Bati Kinesi is how they're shire to the Bati Medrash. In other words, that the Ike had kosher on Limud HaTorah. So the Rebbe says a very interesting thing. He says that the Inyan van Yerushalmi is Madgish Hainu Batoira, that the Eibush is Motzui in these places, Davke, mitzad the fact they are Mekoimus HaTorah. Davke there is the Inyan van Limada. V'ukamoshin is Bo'ali, so here he connected very fascinatingly that we saw that the Chochmas Timur may have been just like we were learning just now, Beneged Dirshu Havai B'Yimotzei in the Shemei Tzura. In other words, we were talking more mitzad the actual Maila of the Inyan Atzmai and what you might call the Zman there. But here the Yerushalmi is Madgish that it comes kilo mitzad a Moki Masuyam. So the Rebbe said that's the Maila of the Inyan van Torah. Davke. He said, because as we said, that Chochmas Timur, what does it, the Shoresh HaTorah, you do it anyway, is may be a Pnimius Atik. In other words, we were saying that Pnimius Atik is Maya, and that's Ki'ilu, the Inyan of Dirshu Havaya B'Himotzoi. He's so Atzmi that he can be found to anybody. Now they'll be saying that happens to be also the Mokia Atzmi from Torah. As is well known, that the Inyan of the Birurim al Torah, the Giluim in Torah, Be'etzem Nimshach from Chochmas Timur, because Chochmas Timur is the Moki of Chochmas Datzila. And that's the Inyan of the Yud Gimel Midas Torah Nidreshes poem, but that's connected to Yud Gimel Midas Arachimim, which Mekoiram is in Chochmas Timur, as we'll soon see in the Hemshach. Ayin. So therefore, the Inyan van Chochmas Timur is shy to the Inyan van Etzem HaTorah, not just Gilui HaTorah, over the Etzem Moker of the Torah. So HaTorah he gam kein tshuva. There was the Rebbe, it follows that Torah is also tshuva. The Kamosh HaTshuva he refuah, Ukemayim Gedela Tshuva shemavia refuah li'elam shenema erpo mishovaisam. Yeah, what we touch Mishovaisam. Yeah, from Russian tshuva mishuvaisam. Yeah, from your tshuva I will heal you. Kamoy kain batoira ksiu olachol besorei marapei. Yeah, that's brought down in Pirchiyos. Yeah, the Torah is how do you call it? Shikvui lemarcha v'selcha and all those inyanim brought down in Perivov, the last Perik. Yeah, but they said lachol besorei marapei brings that posik. The Torah literally is a healing to the flesh of the body, to the flesh of the Adam, the Inyan van Limud Torah. So we see that the Inyan van Torah is refuah, and refuah we just said refers to teshuva. The Torah also got to do with the Inyan van teshuva, and that's the one on bio it's brought down. But Chassidus Barich is ani l'doidi v'doidi li ha'roya b'shoishanim. That's well known that there's the Zohar Kodesh teaches shoishanim al tikroi shoishanim ela shoshoinim b'halochas. The Alter brings it in the Koteter, the famous ani l'doidi. It teaches it out also the Sofa Maimah, that the Inyan van Limud Torah shoinim b'halochas, particularly the Inyan van learning Torah, how it is mitzad the ultimate kavanah Torah, which is Inyan halochas, but that's Inyan of Atik Shabbat, the ultimate purpose, the ultimate kavanah Shabbat Torah, or that's also a Inyan van tshuva maliosa, it's a Inyan van tshuva atzmis, tshuva iloah, and that's Inyan van ani l'doidi v'doidi li, how it is b'shleimus, through the Inyan van Limud Torah. So there was the Rebbe V'hainu mipnei she'achokma the Torah yesh b'seh gilui b'chinas pnimiyes atikwa. That's the same meaning. Dirshu Havaya b'Himotzoi. So the Taitch is mit aufs Gewerk setzen und lernen ein bisschen Torah. Und es wird alles gut sein. Das kommt aus. That's one on the mind from the Veditchewa. The Veditchewa gesagt, if you hear that there's a Muhammad Ba'elam, then you should sit down and learn Achillik. You should be Machalik Achillik in a Gemara. He said that's called the one in of. If we go in another life, and then it'll be different. That you should be Machalik Achillik. He said that all the Muhammads in the world, as they stay from the Baal Shem Tov also, they all come from the fact that there's a division in the Sfiras Elyon. There's a Hevdor and a Achillik between Teferes and Malchus, Ika Hazor, Ika HaMalchus, that they're not allowed to be getting together through all sorts of, you know, in the far better Shlogarei in the world, from Muhammad. If you make a Achillik al Torah, and there was a division between this al Torah, then you never cause a Yichud back between them. That's it once a man. I said, that there was coming a whole series of armies or Geisos or something were coming close into the area where there was some Shlogarei between Ruslan and Prussia, or something was. And so when they told him, he sat down in the Beis of Medrash at Galant Suga, and he made a chilek from Machalik given a chilek of the halacha in a sugya what he learned, and he said that the Mil Tzema doesn't mevatel sein to Muhammad. Kachu Amar. Here it's not written that particular prat. It's written Limud Ater Zinim Pnimis Atik. You remember there'll be mevatel all these Balim Milchama, all these Rachmanin and Klan, all these people who are Rachman and Klan Mechavu B'Kerem Hashem, and you bring all these terrible tzoras. Afidin, the best thing to do is sit down and learn a bit of Pnimis Ater Ayin Beis, and to Shreida, that's Pnimis Atik. Remember, with this mevatel sein the alle Balim Milchama. But Rachmanin and Klan b'teich of Shtuson. They say that they're going for Sholem. They're going for Tatas HaMuchama, Rachmanin in Klan Hoya. But see, remember, Alidei Limud HaTorah, you can be poor over the Al-Rinyonim. Because you might say that who's got koyach now to do tshuva, Mama says, tshuva and Hamas are even, but koyach for them, it's over learning, come and learn. It's chavek, it's learning. So if you say you got no koyach for that, it's David Zognev, so a capital Tilim, give my Gishrei, Tzvach Libo. Gamto. Anyway, the main thing is do something. I know if this Chok with the Torah, Yesh v'zeh Gilui B'chinas Pnimiyat, Atik, v'zeh Dirsho Havayim Himotzo Oi, Eilu Asore Yomim Shebein Rosh Hashanah L'Yom HaKir Purim. There's one on the deal from the Rebbe, but say that it's not really Asara Yomim Bein, because that's only 7 days of it. It's Asara Yomim Bein that they're also included. That Yom Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim are the two extremes, and they're also included in it. Dios hu motzoi, Ainu shenim shebubchinas atzmius ein seiv. Well, that's the union of Pnimius Atik. The Eibisha Be'atzmusei Alidei HaGvura is the Atik. V'hari Motzi Kaviochel L'Doel Shov Gamle Gei Leyochi. Turns he puts in the word Kaviochel. Oh, he didn't. I don't think he mentioned the term Kaviochel so much. So maybe he wants to get him to include even those who say, well, everything's Kaviochel. You got to be careful. You know what you're talking about. You know how. And the Misnagdim used to, once upon a time, they used to refer to the Avish as the Kaviochel. Nowadays they can't talk about the Avish, you have to call it the Kaviochel. Don't know, why isn't it them? When the Baal Shem Tov got into the Toldos, he was trying to talk to him, you know, the man he was in his Beis of the Shtibel. And he wouldn't listen to the Baal Shem Tov, you know, so the Baal Shem Tov said to him, Nem Tzuf and them Kaviochel, sign Panosa. He started to sing. He was so angry that this guy was interfering with his learning. But all of a sudden, you know, he said that he disturbs the apes. That was so marvelous. In the end, he sort of said, "What do you mean by that?" Kitzer, Amnon, Chochma, Imi Yosef Rak Koyach, Nikra, Anefesh Al Shmoi or Al Shem Achor. Even though Chochma is only a Koyach, we saw that the whole Etzem HaNefesh is called Nefesh Amas Killers Al Shem Inen HaChochma. The Etzem HaNefesh or Chochma So it comes out of his that there's some in him what the Etzem and Nefesh and Chochmah identify. She says, oh, Milas Adam. We saw that was the Milas Adam. Who in a Tikkun. Zeu Sibus Matthias Koyach HaChochmah. And the Etzem of the Adam, he's the Sibba for the Inyan from Koyach HaChochmah. Tolach ein Misached im HaEtzem v'nikra al Shmoi. And that's what we saw was the Inyan from Davke Nefesh HaMaskelen. And we saw that, what is the Etzem? What is Etzem HaAdam? Tainu. Zeu Shatainu u Sibas HaChochmah. Now we kept saying the Inyan from Sibba, because that's talking about Chochmah, it's a Koyach Gluya Me'anevin. So we said that the Tainung is ein Sibba. We spoke about that, the mile of Sibba mitzad echad, and the Chisa'an Kilo, but the mile is that the Mesuvav, Kol Metziusa, is really the Sibba. So even though we're talking about Chochmah as a Koyach, that's only been Nimshach, Me'etzem HaNefesh, we say that the Inyan from Tainung is Sibosa. But we said a BM is bepnimis v'atzmiyas, b'mekoyre v'shor sheishalat chochma, u'BM is mitzad atzmiyas. A tainug hu atzmei naase chochma. That really the Inyan from tainug comes. I'm sorry, the Inyan from chochma is mamish mitzad Inyan a tainug be'etzem inyono. That we said only a Sibba, and that's because we'll see if we go on a bit further. Chochmah mi Ayin Timotzei, the whole even Chochmah is Nimshach, but there are Matzia, but there are Dilug, and therefore, if Yesh mi Ayin, and therefore we call it Sibba for the Chochmah Gluya. Aber mitzad Pnimis v'atzmiyas or Inyan, in other words, Chochmah, how it is, the Pnimis Shor, then the Inyan from Tainug Mamish becomes Chochmah. Well, in a Chochmah, he kefia Tainug Davmi, but our Moshe. Ook my chiyuv aseichel ba'binyan hu kefi tainug ha'atzmi. We saw that Barichas, the whole Moshe, so the moich in the gadlus hein b'ha havdola. That we saw that the Inyan of moich in the gadlus was inside the Inyan from tainug. That was the Inyan of Chochmah, how it is mitzad the Inyan from tainug. But b'shor shor mekoyru ha'tainug ha'ne'elam. And there was the Inyan from havdola. Because tainug ha'ne'elam means Tainug is mitzad atzmis pnimius atik. So the Chochmah Stimora hu pnimius atik. The davke in Chochmah Stimora hu beprinus pnimius. Yeah, we saw that not only that the Inyan from Chochmah Stimora is nimshach from pnimius atik, but Chochmah Stimora is mislabish in atik bio even pnimius mamish. And that was we saw the gvules. The davke alidei the gvules. They can be this forcing kaviochel of the atzmiyos into the bechina, which is called Chochmah Stimora. V'yesh loima dezeh inyan gvuleish da'atik shemelubish b'moiches Stimora. That was the pure in this inyan that atik can be nimtze b'pnimis mamish in Chochmah Stimora. So dirsha Hashem behimot tza'oi. Yeah, the bechol koreinu eila bechinas rotzen. Now we saw that rotzen is so-called Ayin from the Chitoni Kaviochel Legabi the Etzem. Not that it's not a Koyach Atzmi, but it's a Koyach Atzmi how it's Nimshach, but even Chitoni. Or Behimotzo Oiva, Seros Meichua, yes, Etzem Matsui, that is Mamish Atik itself. For Ilo, Bechol Koreno Ilo, we saw was how it's got a Shaychas upon him to the Inyan from we call it Gilgota, what Gilgota is the Inyan from Chitonius, the Inyan from Rotzen, how it's a makif of Al Chaponim, it's not the Pnimias of Atzmusay Mamish. That's Davki through the Inyan from the Gvules, which come into Chochmah Stimora precisely. Therefore we saw, that's in a Serge Michua, Sha'etzem Matsui, Ubi Yerushalmi, Bati Kinesias, or Bati Madrashas, Zeo the Inyan from Torah, which is also Bechinas Chochmah Stimora. Therefore learning Torah is also a form of tshuva. Aroya b'shoy sham. Alright, so now we go on. B'sat Nishma El Beis Techagat Sukkis, also Tov Reish Ayin Dalet. We're going to see now the Inyan from Sukkah.
To ask, how does Tainuk turn into Chochmah?
How
does Tainuk turn into Chochmah?
How does Tainuk turn into Chochmah? Well, that's what we learned in the previous source. said that really the inyan from Chochma b'shorshel ha'pnimi v'atzmi, the inyan from Tainug, the inyan from Chochma is the inyan from Dveikis v'bitul v'iskalus in the inyan from Etzer. That's what Chochma is mitzad pnimi yosei. Therefore, pnimi is a Chochma is the inyan from Dveikis v'riyah all those inyanim. So we see that those inyanim are connected with the inyan from Tainug. The inyan from Riyah and the inyan from Pnimis Chochma is the inyan from Tainug. Therefore, somebody who's Megala, a new inyan, mitzad Chochma Satera, he becomes Mismala Oineg, Tzal Uponov, Rabbi Avu, mit der ganze Tarif. So the Rebbe says that Pnimis inyan, that what that really means is that Tainug itself and Chochma are really inyan echad. In other words, the Tainug is how it is mitzad inyan aboire atzmei. Everything is oil v'nikla in the inyan von atzmus is baruch. What that what we call Tainug. Chochma is how kaviyachol the Eibus is megala that inyan. Even that it becomes what you might call the property of the whole inyan from Seidah Shtaus. It remains betuichoi the inyan from Aliyah Vishkalalas in the Mokkah. And that's the inyan from Gvurei starting. In other words, in order that inyan should go over and become Kilu Shach to Eizeshu Seidah, watch mitzadem, then you have to have two opposite koyfas. On the one hand, the Aliyah V'Dveikes, and on the other hand, that's forcing itself Kavioho into a inyan of beginning of a Seidah which will lead to the Nivroim. And that's the inyan from Gvurei the Atik, and that's what Chochma is. Therefore we find in Chochma always the two inyanim, mitzad echad, Ayin what it's inyan is gilui, rashis are gilui, and mitzad hasheni kol inyan is aliyah v'dveikes v'iskalales in atzmus yispara. And therefore the Rebbe said that's because be mekurim v'shersham, that's inyan echad, and that's what he put the whole moshel of the house. The whole moshel of the Beis was to show that the inyan from Chochma, even though that's a koyach golui, or that's teufus dafki in the inyan from pnimis v'atzmis atayim. All right, so now we go on with Leil Beis, the Chag Sukkos Tov Reish Ayin Dalet. Ha'isa sukkosei tachas ha'ilon, ki ilu asoa b'teich habayis. This is the Mishnah in Masechta Sukkah. Well, it says that if you make your sukkah tachas ha'ilon, under a tree, then it's just like as you made it inside the house. Now, one of the diukim in that is, which we'll also, to a certain extent, we'll touch on in the Maimah, is that if you wanted to say it was possible, you could have just said it was possible. Yeah. Or you could have just said, sukkah asuya tachas ilon pesuli. Why do they say, oh, easy? Somebody who makes his sukkah underneath a tree, like as if he made it inside the house. In other words, you're saying that a sukkah is a makif, and a house is a makif. But if you make your sukkah underneath a ilan, then you're mamshik a makif, but it's like as if you were mamshik the makif of a house, and the makif of a house is not enough for the makif of a sukkah. Understand? The makif of a house is not the makif of a sukkah. It's taka a makif, but it's not the makif of a sukkah. And therefore, it says if you make a makif for your sukkah, even shall elon, then it's got the same aspect as if it were a makif, which is mitzad Beis, not mitzad not mitzad sukkah, not mitzad hamshach of a sukkah. So that itself is a very fascinating diuk. Why did he go around the corner like that and compare those two makifim of Elon and Beis? Mashma, that they're taking makifim, and you can't deny that they're not makifim. A Beis is brought down in Bechol Mokim that's indicative of a makif. And yet, nonetheless, he says that any inyan which is shy to a makif of a Beis is not shy to a sukkah. A sukkah is another makif altogether. And therefore, if you Ayin is like a middle point. Ayin, you might have thought, since it's outside or it's not mamish Beis, that it's a different makif, and maybe it's a makif from Ishkarev to the makif of a sukkah. Therefore he says no, that it's takia a makif, but it's a makif al derech with the makif of a bayis, not the makif of a sukkah. That's what we have to say is the signon of the losh. V'tzodik lahavin, says the Rebbe, v'halo yadua de ilon hu b'chinas oya makif. But in answer to your question, if you look carefully later, I don't want to go back over it, but we had the whole long beer about the Inyan of the Inyan Hoylode. Remember we put the whole Moshe of Hoylode. There, that's where the Ike Kilo Raya comes in, where he connects the Inyan from with Hoylode, with the Inyan from Tainu, and that's nice and Kolatz Musa. It was there that we saw all the Inyanim came together, but it's also in the Moshe. That the Atzmas, Atainu, and Chochma are really one Inyan is in the Moshe of the Beis. But it comes out further with a tremendous toikif in those brackets when I get to the Inyan Hoylode. And we dealt with that something like that. V'tzodik lahavin dehalo yadua de ilan hu b'chinas makif. Ilan is a makif. How do we know that? Okay, Misha Kosev by Avraham Avinu v'yishanu tachas ha'eit. Avraham Avinu said to them, how do you call it? Hishanu, rest up under the eight. Siman, that the eight is a makif al b'nei Adam, that they want to sit down. Shezehu mashihim shiklahem Avraham Avinu makif. So you might say the Moshe was not sufficient. So he said it's takamavur in Sforim. Has brought down in Drushik Siddhas, Barichas, that Avraham Avinu, by telling them to sit under the tree, he was megala to them things that Malachim mitadatzmai are not able to reach. In other words, that Malachim mitadatzmam don't really reach Oiras Makifim. I mean, they can know about them, and they can sometimes be what you might call, they might say Kodesh, there can be certain inyonim of Makif. Well, I not Makifim Amitiyim. Avraham Avinu was megala to them a tremendous chiddush that he was mamshik to them or maki, and that was with that he indicated to the great Hamayla of the neshamas v'chulu. And the interesting is that he that he was mamshik that maki through the inyan from achila davki. The whole beer achila zayin. Doesn't get to Azocha Makifim. So the beer is, it depends how you eat and who you eat. Not who you eat, go forbid, who you are eating. In other words, if you eat like a wrong vino and tigessen, then you mamshich hanor makif alidei din and achila. The whole beer. That's why I said that Hishanu tachas ha'etz, and then it's written, Vahem, we said that Vahem is written as ha'etz, Vayoy cheilu. And they ate. The whole beer. That's Inyan from Achilas Kohanim, and even higher. The Kohanim ate, and the Baalim got a kapara. The person who bought the korban got a kapara through the fact that the Kohanim ate. So the question is, the Kohanim sit down and eat a piece of flesh to it, and the Baal Shkogi or the Baal Aveda, he has a kapara, and their eating was a Inyan Milmaila Lamata, or the Gantzarich. So Avraham Avinu, Alidei, a chidush nifla in his achila, he was mamshik this makif to them. Abal chaponim mavua that the ilan is a makif. V'sukkah who gam ken a makif shezein schachasokeh. This is also a makif. Umipnei ma is a sukkazi tachas ayin kuasar chulu. Why is it? It's like as if you made it in a house where the makif can't help you at all. What's the difference between these Makif, does a makif, so the Rebbe says, why is it shezeh ki'ilu asoa? Ki'ilu asoa means that he also made it in a makif, but a makif which is ki'ilu muvan or yedua, that's l'gavi asukah toignish. Why is it that the ilan? So the chiddush of the Mishnah is that the ilan is also as a makif. So the Rebbe says, how many makifim do we have? What's the chilif from their makif biz their makif? ומפני מה האיש הסוכוסי תחת סיר קיבתו ובייסר אינו מובן לפי מה דאיסר במדרש רבה פרשת ויירו You said to the Malachim, to my representatives, that they should literally lean and take it easy under the tree. Love it, I'm going to pay back for that. I'll give Porea, means literally I'll pay a star, I'll pay what's due to your sons in the desert, in the ordinary Harikot Yishuv in Eretz Yisrael, and later on Leosid Love, I'll pay them for that tremendous thing you did by telling them to rest under the tree. Bamidbo Poras Onon Lamosak. We say that the Eibster gave them the Ananea Hakov, but that was a covering and a curtain over their head. B'yishu b'sukkah stage for Ayin from mitzvah sukkah. Comes from the Ayin from Makiv. The Osid Love v'sukkah tiyeh letzeil yomam. The sukkah is going to be a shade during the day, and that's referring to that's going to be Leosid Love. So there was it. The Rebbe come to Islafise. Hara the mitzvah sukkah who mishum de veishanu tachosei. That's a piroyan that Davis is paying up for having sat the people down under the tree. Is that we are getting mitzvah sukkah mitzad the amshachas amachiv of the Elon to the Malachim. Why do you say that it's got nothing really to do with the sukkah? And on the contrary, if you make it that way, then it's clear you did it in a way which everybody understands is not a Ayin from sukkah, a machiv from sukkah. So the Rebbe L'chera, this is the Mokkeh, that's on that basis the Rebbe said he would pay the Yidden all these rewards and all these shtaris mitzad that inyan. And we see that the mitzvah from sukkah, both now and Liyosid, are the direct payment of that shtar mitzad the fact that he said he shanu tachasah. If you're mamshik nowadays, that makiv then toignu. That makiv was the source of the whole inyan from sukkah. So why is it that after Pikain, the sukkah b'poel is a different makiv altogether than that makiv? B'lohin zeh, yesh l'haktim mashen isbur liyir ha'efresh bein moichas timor l'gulgolta. Now we go back to our main theme. The gulgolta beginners atik, urak beginners makiv, beginners ktenis lavad. In other words, it's also a gila of the oineg, but we saw it's a gila of the oineg, how it comes derech ha'oras harotzen. That there's a ha'orah from the oineg which is meya in rotzen, and rotzen is legabi amitius ha'atzmius, it's a inifan amshocha bederech chitzoy. Over my stimor, chochmas stimor, meya beginners penimius atik, beginners penimius. Not only the penimius atik is meya dot, but it's meya also be penimius, as we saw in the previous moment, Davkim Amshocha Penimius, or Gili Penimius through the Inyan from Gvori Statik, through the Inyan from Davki Tik Boiras Atzman. When is Boer, the Gili Atainu, Uberotzen, Ubechachma. Gili Atainu can be a Gili in two other Koichais, in Koicharotzen and Koichachachma. Rach, Shiberotzen, Huracha, Oras Ha'oinig. But Rotzen is separate altogether from Oinig. And if there's a Gila of Oinig in Rotzen, then it's only a Ha'ora der Chitzenis Bilvad. Or Bekinas Makiv V'Avdola. And therefore it's called Gilgolta. What Gilgolta is the skull bone that surrounds the Inyan Amoyah. That indicates a Inyan from Makiv. Also a Inyan shall have Avdola, as it were, Okitrogenkeit, to use the expression in Yiddish, withdrawn, as it were. So it's well known that sometimes we say that a thing which is bavdola is mitzad goydel ma'alosai, and therefore it's bavdola, it can't come begolo mitzad goydel ma'alosai. The same is. But the fact that the Inyan of Gulgolta remains bavdola, einachanami does mitzad the ma'alosai. Dahainu that it's Inyan Rotzen. Inyan Rotzen is a koach makiv. Over the ultimate inyonim mitzad pnimis ha'atzmas, then that's a chitzon. because ultimately the kavana amiti ba'atzmus is davke that the atzmus should be misgala, even for dira, to use the ultimate expression, dira b'tachtoim. In other words, the ultimate shleimus of all the amshachas is when the atzmi is davke bo b'derech pnimi. Therefore, if the atzmi is bavdola mitzad ma'alosei, it's assumed that he's not mamish pnimis v'atzmi is v'atzmi. Because pnimis v'atzmi is going to come davke b'pnim. Therefore, the fact that he's b'makif avdola is an indication of ma'alosei l'gabi de madregis sheba pnimiyas. Over mitzad hasheni, it's also indicatory that he's not the ultimate shleimus of the atzmi. Liyei sharotzen hu atzmi kemoya oinig t'shneihem etchem. רק שהאויnig הוא פנימי פנימיס העצמיאס ורוצן הוא חיצוניס העצמיאס. In other words, it's taki עצמיס, but it's עצמיס how he comes beginners חיצוניס. In other words, he's in it to be meir to inyonim how they are michutz laha'etem. And therefore, sof kosof, he's the inyan of how the עצמיאs relates to inyonim b'derech חיצוניס, but not b'derech amshochas kol עצmusa. אבל אין העונג סיבה אל הרוצן, ובעצם מהוסם עם ההפכים זה מי, because we saw that the inyan of oinig is aliyah v'dveikis in the etzem, and on the contrary, it's the inyan for, we'll see later here in the Maimah, that the emissary inyan for oinig is what we call makif of an oil chayza. It's talking going back into the etzem, and it's aliyah v'ishkalalis in the etzem. Ve'ilu rotzen inyan is davke amshocha b'chitonius v'gilui el ha-mekablim in an oifen what the gabi di atzmius is chitoni, and therefore sochos of the two ha-fochim ze mizer v'yalkein ma shebegilui ha-rotzen yesh b'ze oinig hari ze rach ha-or levad ubibchinas makiv. And therefore the inyan Gulgulta also has a certain inyan from Atik, a certain gilu from Atik, but it's Atik, it's only a ha'ora bilvad, and therefore it remains. It's not meshana the fact that the Gulgulta being rotzen is kilo muvda, as we pointed out just now, the beer in the meaning from Avdallah. In other words, that the gilu Atik there can't be meshana. The matthias that's of course off. It's a inyan what inyan is lahoya ba'avdallah ubamaki. Not the Panima. Over the etzem of the atzmas wants Davki to go into Panimias, and that's the in our oinig. As we're going to see, that's kilo in oinig gufa, a wondrous, like what you might call shinu akav, because as we said, the whole oinig is aliyah v'dveikis, and here's the in of Davki being nimshach. So we'll see about that as we go along. Mashenkein achochma eno atzmias. I'm sorry, where are we? Arizach or levad uprinis machim. Mashenkin a chochma eno atzmi ki im koyach me nefesh. He's only a koyach. Chochma as a koyach is not the atzmi. He's a koyach me nefesh. V'yesh lo sibo. And since he's a koyach, and a koyach is a specific limited entity which comes begoli lefi achukim shaloi, and therefore he has to have a siba upon him. So we saw that the siba was the oinig. Omnom who atzmus hanefesh. In other words, that siba is really the atzmus hanefesh, mashu hu b'madregas adam. On the contrary, that's the shleimus. Well, that what he is the inyan from chokhmah. Well, that's the shleimus kola hanefesh. Like we said, that the nefesh hamaskilas is davke mitzad the inyan from adam. V'hainu. So he said, what is that? Sha'atayinu usibas achokhmah. So what do we mean by saying that? So what is the beer? It's like we said, first of all, that the atzmius hanefesh, well, that's what is goyrem that is called chokhmah. In other words, that the etzemini for Adam in Yonah is chokhmah. That's Milas Kolor. So the Rebbe said, come to us that the etzem of the nefesh is called al shema Adam, and that's called nefesh hamaskelas. So he said, what is the etzem of Adam? Sof, what is sof atzmos? That's the inyan of an oinig. Therefore we saw that oinig and etzem meaning chokhmah, that's the etzem maila of the nefesh of Adam, have a kesher one with the other, and they're linked one to the other. Omna hu atzmos nefesh mashu hu b'madregas Adam. He said, albeit that's the inyan of Atzmus HaNefesh, how it's gone into the Madrega of Adam. In other words, that the Atzmus Tainu, which is Atzmus HaNefesh, and that's a Siba bentime. It's what we call a Siba. In other words, that the Koyach HaChochma, which is the Inif and Adam, being beginning of the Spheres, or that comes b'derech Siba u'mesuvav from the Tainu. V'ayinu sha'tainu u'sibas HaChochma. Ve'im kein, if it's an Inif and Siba, harizeh b'chinas islapshis pnimias mi'achas shezo a-Siba. Now here the Rebbe comes and says clearly, that's what we touched, come up beyond in the Bia earlier. We pointed out that a Siva and a Masuva are rechoikim zemizeh, kimat derech yesh me'ayin, but we said the pink le'idoch kisa, davki, a thing which is yesh me'ayin, needs the whole inner of the ayin in the yesh. And bli inyan ayin, ein matzias a-yesh klal. If I say that Tainuk is the Sivas HaChochma, ultimately that means that the whole matzias HaChochma is the Einik. I only need the Lashon Siba, like we touched in last week's year, mitad de Gila Chochma al Sakoyav, and al Zayin from Asfira, over mitad de Pnimius in Yonom, then really the one and the same Inyan, because since the whole Matzias of Chochma couldn't be, being as it is a Masuva, from a Siba, and what's it? Siba is Tainuk. It comes to us that the whole Inyan of the Matzias of Chochma, I feel that is Begoloi, I feel that is a Masuvav, is really the Inyan of Tainuk. Raksha Bish Pashtas HaChochma Hu HaOros Ayin. How it comes out in the Gilui as a Sphira, then you see only there B'chinas HaOra, just like we see in the Yesh HaOra of the Ayin. We don't really see Begoloi. Ava Mitzad Pnimias, like the Alter Rebbe teaches in the Geras HaKodesh, Hu Levade B'koicha V'yacholte Lahitzes HaYesh Mi'ayin V'efes HaMukra. Hidden in that is really the whole Atzmius. Mitzad Pnimias is the whole Atzmius is there. But Golui, we see it only as a Siba. From these Lashonas, come to us that we learned the Pshat B'Ev and Hanoch and Baruch Hashem. He said, here the Rebbe really puts it sort of clear with these few brief Lashonas. He said, Im kein harizem p'chinas islabshi pnimias mi'achis sibas. But we learned the whole Pshat of Siba rightly, that's mitzad the islabshis pnimias of the etem. Raksha bispashtas, it's not noticeable. You only see the ha'ora in a begoli. Ube'etzem ha'chochma, hu b'chinas etzem ha'ohinik. But b'pnimis ayin, it's really one and the same. Could there can't be matzias, the whole yesh, the whole Siba, kol inyon is managed with the etzem which brought him about. And therefore, b'pnimis v'atzmias, of the ohinik is there the whole inyan of chochma, and it really one inyan. Therefore, ultimately, the inyan of the Tainu becomes the whole Matthias of, and is the whole Matthias of Chochma. V'aynu, Chochma stimoa, lubish b'chinas ha'Tainu ha'atzmi. Haynu, the Haynu b'chinas pnimius ati. In other words, the Eibishter, mamish, how he is, bi'atzmusay, gefindt sich in the inyan of Chochma Stimoa, and he finds himself there by even Pnimias. Afila will say the Chochma Stimoa is already the beginning of Reishis Haseda. That Guf is going to become further cautious as we go along now. We're going to be married in those in L'chora. Yeah, after all, there is a Evdil between Atik and Chochma Stimoa. How do we say that they're mamish one and the same meaning? In only me Ayin there. We're now going to develop on that. What comes out here, an interesting cure observation, is that we say that really the Yesh, which is B'derech Siba, which is B'derech Masuba, Mia Siba, in other words, the Eivishter, how he is the immediate inner from the Atzmi, and the inner, if we take the Yesh, the Hanira, really soft so. The Yesh Hanira is really mamish the Pnimiusi of Atzmosei is mamish the Atzmi. And what it really comes out is the Shorsha Harishan of the Atzmis Kilo, there's a presence or an awareness on the part of the Atzmis of the Yesh in a way that they're really mamish inyan ever boivim Masuya. Well, if he's equal to us, the fact that the Eivishter made a world, that's what the Alter Rebbe is meramis. And the Alter Rebbe says that Hu Levadi B'Koicha V'Yacholte Yeah, lahamti. Well, how does he say there? Lahamti is a yesh me ayin whatever. Yeah, we mogelijk ze voelen waarde bekeuren wie geld. Maar mega that's kilo voel, that's the koichoi wie geld houden met z'n hule waarde. Dat je door te dienen van de year. You know, well, come is that the whole beauty we're learning now in the Chittas in Shara Yichud. And Mitzad Yidiosi is part of Mitzad from Da, you didn't quite get to that point, we're getting. And the next few stickle I thought is Yoideas, Atzme Yoideas colony for him. Come to us, that could be Yoideas Atzmusei, who Yoideas Hayesh, as you might say, more than anderen in Yonim, because that's Davki the Hulavade, Dort is Davki the Hulavade. And it's really Hainoach, it's really Mamish, that's him. Had he caught, he's the yes is Mamish a chip off the old block, you know, but not Stam. Das is it. Das is the Atmi becomes the Inyan of the yes. That's a good. If we say that that's the pure in the Sinyaniya, because the Inyan from Chachma is also a Chachma Mi'ayin Timah. So, and that's what he's going to be Mazman of it. We see it is that way. Begolu, it comes out in even from a Tia, but then Yesh Mi'ayin. And after became we said the old Pnimis is Mamish, the old Pnimis Chachma is Mamish, the Inyan of Atzmusi, the Atzmi Mami. If we will, Nimta, the Yesh, the Eivster Kaviora, he can't run away from the Yesh. He's made it, he can't, the Eivster Konisht, how he said, I don't know how to say it. He can't. How do you go to Nachalose? We stayed with Nachalose. How do we say in Downey? Yes. Yeah, lo yiteish avaya amoy v'Nachalose lo ya yazoi. So we're going to see as we go along here, and say is Mashman and that's what we saw in Perek with Tzadik Gimel. The Ike, this is in the Neshama. So the alle Inyonim. Das ist die Ike in the Inyan von the Neshamas. And the Neshamas, Dafki, they have to put up with the Yesh. Dafki, they, to a certain extent, become like a Inyan of the Yesh. They are Mislavish in the Yesh, and they're the ones who are Noise Be'atzma, with Kol Inyan HaYesh, and the ganze Achrayas for the Yesh, is Dafki the Neshama. If I'm going to name that the Pnimis of all the Inyanim is Dafki in the Yesh. If I'm going to, that's a pshat. Say it over again. I forgot the lesson. Nachalose lo yazeh. What's the first word? Ki lo yitesh Hashem amoy. Lo yitesh Hashem amoy. This is the Inyan from the Neshamas. Nachalose lo yazeh. This is the Inyan from the Tzor. And Beklal the Inyan from Yidden Halei Alamata. B'kol Mochim Shaheim. Aber Be'eretz HaKodesh lo yazeh. So we can say that's not the Taichapsa, a description of Eish to say, yeah, it's Efsha B'derach Acheres. Because the Inyan from the Yesh, mit hu levade b'yichote, yeah, it's all like one Inyan. It's only that it comes out, B'derach Hamtzoah, but even shall Siba u'mesuvav, yeah, or Suvav, yeah, mea Siba, or so chasoch. The Eivs is more than the Sachen mit Inyonim, what they come b'derach Hamtzoah, b'derach Yesh. He makes them Kaviohu kol atzmusay, or the ganze Shleimus ha'etzem is tolu in Zayta. What we can say is Rabbeinu Shalom, who's your v'tah? What's with your yes? Where's it to? So you say, well, he's got it wrong somewhere. You say, I mean, so he's only a kind, you know, Bonercha. Yes, das ist nicht Nari Yisrael boy Havehu. He's a little kid, and that stuff gives shows how the Ava Atzmiyah. Ni. So he's made a few blunders. What's it? And it is I say, kommt es doch von die Welt. Ich meine, if you're misbeinen, beklolles und beprotius, I say, kommt es. Die Miete sind ja noch eine, man darf ja a mesuva, Ayin was kommt raus, a Werte sagt, und das ist die einige Art, mir die einige Art, das ist er. Yeah, see, I'm right. There was a little explosion to support me. Several. Younger than mine.
Somebody just got married.
Somebody got married. That's the latest. Yeah. When somebody gets married, they let off fireworks. You're kidding. All right. So let's start the first line, and then we'll call it an evening. Omnam lefian. So ich glaube, ja, du tör. Ja, חוכמס תימור משלב מבחינת פנימיוס עתיק. וממילא הרי חוכמס תימור הוא פנימיוס הכסף. חוכמס תימור, even if it become חוכמה, is really פנימיוס עתיק. Like we saw, ועוד איך. למעלה מבחינת גוגל, כשהוא מבחינת החיצניוס הכסף, דהרס עתיק הוא שם מבחינת מקיף לבד. וכמה יש כזה בית חיים דגוגל הוא חיצניוס הכסף. ומויכס תימור פנימי הכסף. After we been a while hoine, there was no zestige steter gesehen uitschrijven, bevor is het zijn uitschrijven. Chachmas Timor, hoe is Machile Chachma Giluya? You know, have to say, how does that happen? Yeah, from Chachmas Timor, went Chachma Giluya. Now, Chachma Giluya is another story already. That's already out. Chachma, Shaito, Seidu von Sphira, so later it's going to become a ganze, I'm sure I'll be doing a Seidu von him. And those are the Chachma, from where that comes from, does it look Mamish, he himself, does it look Pnimis? I think, to use the expression, does it look Eralei? That's him. Das ist nicht kein Chochma, das ist nicht Mamish Eralei. It'll ever say. Now, from that becomes that. How do you get Chochmas Timor from that? How does that go? So, Emma, she said, hey, no Hanami Atini from Siba or Masuba. If we became, how does the Siba come to the Masuba? Because they come to him. So, of course, there's got to be some sort of a Yachas, some sort of a Biur. Particularly, we said that that's Nimt or Misham, Nimshach Misham. Nobody would suggest that the Abish is through, even though it's written, that in not Ultreros, you have a Zorokon, in the Hanami, the Abish was through a magic stones from a box. Came about a world of a pure Muzayin in the whole Seder Ayin, because they gave us that if that Pnim is for Atzmi, it's Atik, Chachmas Timor, say that from them Chachma Giluya. How does it work? They gave us. And we'll see, we're going to answer that, and then we're going to come to a deeper Shaila. How does that work? And we'll just keep it going and going here, almost, okay, believe safe. So, I mean, it's unbelievable. And the same with the Song of War. The truth is, when you get into the Song of War, it just goes, police law, just keeps weiter. Have a good evening, gentlemen. The main thing is, how do they say Moshiach has to come? There you are. Moshiach has to come. Mr. Lokacha. You want Moshiach now?
Moshiach now. See how the name of
Moshiach. We have to sort of bring it to the world. The world's judge the Rebbe's. They should learn up to Toshin Nun a little bit, and then full and that they don't go. They have to go to learn Toshin Nun, Toshin Nun Beis, Talon Fil to Protim. That's all the one that see that the Rebbe said that the Toshin Nun Alu, the Kochen and Brennen, a fire. I'll bring them share prepare mamish. And it's a mitzvah to talk out. Was right. With whoever you meet, you try to. I'm sure you do. Mitzvah gedola liya is besimcha. Mitzvah gedola ledaber. I can't think of anything else. But hopefully it could be we'll have to hope for a new tekufa. Hopefully they'll open up a new shlav. And there'll be more than just dua, there'll be also to be known nice and also to tazah, which will happen, and they will break the last of the keep on. And it's a big mitzvah to come to the Fruma Yidden. It's a big mitzvah because I mean, Sochos there are people. All the other Ikarim they're very particular about. We've got to just get them to be particular about the Ikar Hayud Beis. They should have a big chayes in that as well. And it's a big mitzvah to talk about. Have a good evening, my gentlemen. Listen, that's a idea from the Meraglim. The Meraglim with guys, they just got it a bit wrong. Well, it's stated, it's an interesting mashmoyas in the Zohar Kodesh. And I want sort of from the Kloisenberg, it's a little bit sort of almost sharp. But certain the Shlachim Amshim, and it's Koil Nasi Bohem. Koil Nasi Bohem. Yeah. So they come together in the Zohar. The Zohar said the trouble was that all of them were Nasi Bohem. All these guys wanted to be big timers. But they wanted to be Nasi. So in the midbar, where it was all sort of ruchnistic, and they were big ruchnistic people. Remember, they saw a hemshech of their Nasias. They wanted the union for leadership and big. This. He said, but if they go into Eretz Yisrael, it's going to be different. It's going to be everybody's going to be the same. That's a similar time of Tekorah. Everybody's going to be the same. They won't be able to be a big Nasi. They'll have to be more posh. They didn't. That was one of the things that Omgeim, the whole squad of Isaiah, Hashem applied in Midbar. So he stayed in a certain part of the Zohar. And I once heard from the Klizmach, I got from the Mashiach, and he said one of the biggest tivers that ruins, people, Erlich Yidden, particularly, how do you call it, Tzachei HaTzibur, is a faulty mind at time of held. He's going to be a big leader, a big macher. Faulty mind, ich bin ein Macher, ob ich was zu sagen. I never quite sort of clocked what he meant, but he came out just passing. On Motzei Shabbos there's against mashmoyas in the Zohar Kodesh that they were sort of caught in this idea that if it came into Eretz Yisrael they'd be too equal to everybody else. Mitzadi in Ma'aser being ha'ikar yamot in the midbar, even from looking at it. So therefore, I remember I once heard from him Shir. He said that the time was high snasses. It's a mistake. He doesn't say that. It's verdrehen the mention. He's also a man. Feared. Just come to the second. How he called Chavivas and so COVID of America. I think that's a problem. There's a lot of people get caught in this whole say based on what the tzibur want. They know what the tzibur thinks. They know what's good for the tzibur. They know what's the right thing to say. The river is the only one who knows. That's a big problem. Anyway, we finish up our good thing. Mashiach's already here, taking me up. Good time.
Amen.
I think we albums on the clothes, but he was immensely, he went through terrible troubles. I meant to do it for the hell of a child, and he came out on the top. He said, he had the right to say what he meant.